I felt the whole time like he was going to come back. It just didn't feel like this is how this ends. I think he's their best choice. I guess money could be a sticking point. I don't think that will end up being a major thing. I don't think it ends like this. I just don't. It's just my gut. Runs don't usually end like this.
We don't need to tell Ramona this. If there were a conversation for aggregation, sensation, I feel like we're all sitting here waiting with bated breath for that moment. D-Day, decision day. Is Steve Kerr going to coach the Warriors next year or not? So let's see if we can get her. Because she's here right now on the River Islands guest line. ESPN, our favorite, Ramona Shelburne. Hi, Momo. How we doing?
What's up? What's up, Mark?
What's good? Yeah, I'm great. How's Steve Kerr? How's he doing?
I think they're having their meetings. I don't know if I thought it was today, and I don't know how long it's going to take, or if they're going to have another one tomorrow or after that. Like, it sounds like it's kind of a process, right? They had one last week, and then he went off and played his golf, at Augusta and stuff, and came back. And I felt the whole time like he was going to come back. It just didn't feel like this is how this ends. Steph's still good. They still have hope. I think he's their best choice, but I also had always thought, well, we just don't know what happens when he gets in that room, like what happens when they all really start talking, and, how that feels. So that there's that variable, it's not like a game where we're watching it on TV and we see who scores the points. Like, we don't, we'll report on it later, of like how those meetings go, and we'll try to get some firsthand or secondhand accounts or whatever we can get. But it's kind of an unknown right now. I think about, I do believe people when they say that the Warriors haven't really, considered alternatives to him, like they talk of successors or anything like that. I believe that. I can guess at names, right? I can guess, like I would, I think Luke Walton's name should probably come up, right? He's a former Warriors interim coach. He's had a couple of head coaching jobs. He's familiar with the system. Mike Brown's name, although he has a job, right? Right. Will Green, that's another name. He's been a head coach. He's a former assistant coach. But then, all of do those feel like better than Steve Kerr? I don't know. They're different. They're younger. Other than they have enough credibility with the vets, they could step in, or do they want something totally fresh? And that's why I just keep coming back to this idea of like, he's probably their best option still. Just run it back.
We knew he was golfing. Did you say he went to Augusta?
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I think that's where he went.
Oh my God! No wonder he kept his golf weekend. Jeez.
I don't think it was that long of a trip. I think it was a quick one. I don't think it was like a whole long thing. I think it was pre-planned. This just happened to fall, now. Like, it's hard to get tea times there, right? You gotta know somebody.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he got like a Twilight or something, showed up as a single and was able to get out.
Yeah. Good Lord. All right. Okay, so meeting today, and you're with what
I think that's what I've heard. Although don't turn me into the I wouldn't say they're meeting today because I haven't confirmed they did or are. You know what I mean?
I get it.
That's what I've heard.
And
right?
you're feeling more likely than not that's it, because you kind of just said all that in a way of he's the best option for the Warriors. What does he want to do? I think is what we're all waiting on. So are you thinking this probably happens? Is that your thought?
I thought, I don't know. I just think Steve likes to coach. I've just been around him. I think he likes. We all see him in his balanced life, and I go surfing, and I play with my grandkids, and I'm not just there's so many people in the league that are unbalanced. But he is also a grinder. He's not Thibodeau. He doesn't sleep in his office and. Not shower. Well, I'm not saying Tibbs doesn't shower for 3 days, but that's not his vibe, right? Tibbs fine. I didn't want to lump that sentence all together, but Steve loves to coach. Like, he loves basketball. I think he loves being a part of the guys. He loves the locker room, and if Steph was not there, I'd say, yeah, he'd walk away. But Steph's still there for another couple of years. So I think he probably just worked something. They probably just worked something out. It just makes the most sense to me.
What would be the possible sticking points then? I mean, it's been almost 3 weeks since they got knocked out in the play-in.
Yeah.
It feels like it should be a lot easier than this.
I don't know, Mark. You were in L.A. when Phil sort of stepped away, and then, did he retire? Was it a sabbatical? There's sometimes with these great coaches, like, what are sticking points? Okay, what's the roster going to look like next year? Does it make sense to have a guy making $17 million a year coaching a team that's in the play-in? Is the roster going to be the same? Are they going to go out and get somebody? Are they going to? When's Jimmy coming back? Is he on track for February? I think that's it's the hope. But if you're just coaching the team that was out there at the end of this year, wasn't that good of a team, right? You guys saw it. You had to watch the 37 wins. And,
yes, we did.
They had one really good night. When they played the Clippers there, but it's kind of, I don't know. I covered the Warriors in their heyday, so it's just weird for me to get all excited about one night in the play-in game. You know what I mean? Like, okay, Steph was great in one game, but he also had a wrap on his knee the whole game, and it's just weird to see these as the same guys, So what is the sticking point? What's the roster going to look like? I guess money could be a sticking point. I don't think that will end up being a major thing. Like they print money at the Chase Center. They can they can make this work, right? Everything there is profitable. They're a really well run organization. So I think that there is could I see a world in which he's gone? I guess if things don't go well in that room, but I just don't think it ends like this. I just don't. I know that sounds, it's just my gut.
Yeah.
I'm not basing it off of, anything that happened today or in the last conversation. I just, runs don't usually end like this.
That roster thing keeps coming up. And this idea of what the roster is going to look like. And I keep thinking whenever that comes up, I think to myself, what are the options even to do anything with this roster this offseason? How would you answer that?
Oh, there's a lot of options, man. You've seen the teams that have already lost in the playoffs?
Yes.
And the teams that are about to lose in the second round?
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of teams that cost a lot of money that are going to go home in the second round, or they already went home in the first round. And so whenever you fall short of your goals, there's going to be some teams. This is like what I remember talking to this is when the Warriors traded for Jimmy Butler. There was this sense of, I remember the Heat had this position. It was like, well, there may not be a market right now, but there's a lot of teams that are underachieving and that think they might be one player away. And all we need are two of them to bid against each other. And they got them. The Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors were both underachieving. They had a nice little bidding war. They got a pretty good return, for a guy who didn't want to be there anymore and made a lot of money. So I just think that this could be an interesting offseason. There's teams to look. I don't think Boston does anything crazy. It's sort of a gap year. They overachieved during the year. They went out in the first round, disappointing, but I don't think this was the year they projected winning. They just happened to win in the regular season. Houston lost pretty early. I don't think they're motivated to do anything big, but you never know. Cleveland, if they lose in this round, that's an interesting one. Portland, there's the new guy up there who knows what he's doing.
Right.
There's just there's just a lot of things. You could revisit Giannis. You could revisit the Kawhi discussions. There's what happens with LeBron in LA. We haven't established that one yet. So I think there's plenty of things that can happen. You just have to let the offseason start shaking loose.
And the Kawhi one is really fascinating to me because the thought is maybe his contract gets voided based on all of the shenanigans. What are you hearing about the Kawhi resolution and how that might go?
I don't think that they want to trade him. I just don't, because I think he's important to the organization, and they have a very high opinion of him as a basketball player, and with good reason. I mean, the guy's, I had him as an All-NBA player this year. I think he'll probably get that. He got 65 games right on the button. But they also showed a little bit of humility in trading Zubac and Harden, and so it would be hard for them to trade him. But do they want to give him another contract? Do they want to extend him? That makes things more interesting. If the Warriors are willing to extend it, does that change things? I think you have to offer them something. They've got to do a combination of good young players and draft picks. It can't just be, like that Paul George trade, right? Remember how a couple years ago the Clippers and the Warriors had conversations about Paul George, and the Warriors still can't believe the Clippers wouldn't trade him, and they just let him go for nothing, right? Rather than get something back for him. Well, I think probably the Clippers made the right call there. Do you want to take on money in this era? Do you want to take on bad contracts just to get something in return? So I think they'll be choosy. They also the Clippers don't necessarily have to extend him. They could just let him play out the last year of his deal.
Yep.
Like they were kind of doing with Harden. So that's tricky. They'll have to offer something real, but maybe you put 2 firsts in there. 2 firsts. That's what they got for Zubac. Maybe a young player to make, a pretty good player, or whatever the Clippers want. I don't know. I live here in LA. I talk to the Clippers. I think they don't want to trade him. That's my vibe.
That's
so, like, in other words, you're going to have to come correct with an offer.